Yo, what up, everybody? Your host, 3.0-Aseer, along with my co-host, Selena, the Empress of 10,000 years. Amor says, what's up? We just got in. We just wanted to say peace to everyone. Say peace to everyone. Thanks for tuning in again. I don't think we're going to be on as long as we usually do, just because tonight is very interesting celestially. There's some things that I kind of want to deal with on a private tip. But to include the family, I definitely want to say peace to you, and thank you again for tuning in and holding us down. I wasn't sure if we did last Friday. The Queen said we did, but all of these days be running in to the same day to me, so I'll be like, well, just let me make sure. So we're here once again. I definitely want to say peace to you all, and thank you again for showing up. As you know, we always start with the present and prime events, or what they call current events. One of the biggest events that came out, I think, this week is this whole, as we start with what's going on with the anti-site government, and the fact that these people have now acquired the stance that they now want to formally start to put a run on the bank, Central Bank of Iran, which again is really an act of war. And if anybody who are history buffs can remember historically what happened with the United States, the same thing kind of went down in the United States when the whole thing went into receivership around the time of the War of 1812, which was really a fiduciary war in which Britain, or the Brits was trying to extend their jurisdiction back over the United States after they had already gotten the jurisdiction back over the United States during the Civil War. So with the Civil War, with all of the things that have been happening since then, they have created a society, like I said, a societal interface in which they have now perpetuated the idea that they want to do the same and follow the same course of events, the same course of events that, just happened. Yes. So that's what wound up happening. They created a situation now where, as they're starting to run on the Iranian bank, the Iranians are now starting to call in the debt notes that they have with the other countries that are in league with them. All of the countries that happen to be in league with Iran happen to be the same countries that, at the same time, all started to put the embargoes on it. So, for anybody that doesn't know, an embargo is different than a sanction. An embargo means that these people have the right when supplies like food, medicine, things that people need to survive and eat and actually have a human existence, when those things become the primary issue, that's when an embargo comes down. So this means that with an embargo, what they can do is that if a ship is coming into port to give people food, medicine, whatever, these people in, or the outside government, meaning the United States or whatever government that is in league with them with this thing, they have the right to seize the ship or blow it out the water. So that means that any ship that comes in from any government that is there to actually help the people, the United States is now, as well as certain French and European powers, now trying to extend the jurisdiction where they have the right to shoot the ship out of the water. It's the same thing that they did when they had the flotilla that was hooked up with the Turkish and the so-called the Turkish flotilla that broke and tried to help those people in the Gaza Strip, of which Senator Cynthia McKinney was one of the people who was caught up in the rest of all of that. And to hear her tell it, after she had been arrested by the Israelis, they basically was trying to institute some sort of like torture or some sort of mind control situation, being that the clandestine agency in Israel is run through Mossad. So Mossad also, it was the Mossad who worked diligently in American politics, specifically when Cynthia McKinney was bringing up the issue of not only the gentrification and the illegal domestication of children. They actually had a run-on election, a secret run-on election, meaning that they created a whole fake election in which they wanted to challenge her right to sit over the district that she had been rightfully elected over by the people. And so they took this thing all the way up to the Supreme Court to the point that once they took it that far, they said, well, what we're just going to do, as opposed to firing her and dealing with her constitutional amendment and trying to appeal what's happening, what we're going to do is we're just going to destroy the entire district. And that's what they did. And the people who did it, it started with some councilmen in New York. All these niggas that be behind Charles Barron and the rest of these guys in New York and talking all of that, we got to take the community back and all that other crap. Those be the same ones who, when the shit went down with McKinney, they was nowhere around. You know what I'm saying? And it's just funny that as soon as she got taken out of the race, of the running, that's when your man Barron, Charles Barron, a.k.a. Hazel I. Slick, came in and decided that he was going to run for whatever her seat was in a district that don't exist no more. So, again, this shows you the political intrigue and the political struggle that a lot of so-called black politicians have. It's like you fighting a double-edged war in the sense that you are at a stage where you know that this system is corrupt or whatever, and you want to come in and even do something for your people. However, all of that got to be sanctioned by certain other people, or it's just not going to happen. And this is the problem. When we get into...
That sounds like you just structurally broke down the metaphysics of the quote-unquote organizers of the lecturers in the lecture.
Oh, see, he's bringing the parallels. Like, that's true. It is kind of the same. It is kind of like that. It's just the difference is we're not a municipality as of yet, and they haven't created a system of basically making sure everybody just broke off the same amount of bread. At least with the municipality and shit, them niggas make sure that they get their checks cut. You know what I'm saying? With us, it's like, it's different. But then again, this is what I mean about them. When I say them, talking about the powers that be, them basically putting out there that we have abandoned our government. That's the situation as to why nothing has been started, nothing has significantly changed in the community specifically, just due to the fact that they are assuming the jurisdiction based upon what our quote-unquote government in last session agreed that it was supposed to do, which was it was supposed to reconvene after a certain amount of time prior to the Civil War thing. You know what I'm saying? They created They created a situation where the people are putting themselves in positions to kind of be fed on by the same municipality that's basically trying to lock everybody up. You know what I'm saying? So it's all of that. You know what I mean? Kind of coming down. So dealing with that on one end, dealing with the other side of that, which is the fact that they've created another quote-unquote super committee to come up with whatever agents or whatever it is they're supposed to do to help them out of their present financial situation. But you have to understand there is no help out of this present financial situation for them. This is it. There is no redemption. There is no being able to charge back shit for them because they have basically passed the point of no return. They've been in receivership for so long that the receivership has now become insolvent. Now the insolvency has now become straight dereliction of duty. You know what I'm saying? So in this, we are in the reorganization of the so-called American federal republic, federal system into now a total corporatized version of itself. Another thing I was doing in knowledge too a couple of months ago, when it comes down to it, they perpetuated this. Yeah, so we're back. They created, like I said, the situation now where they created this embargo, meaning that they're going to stop ships to actually try to come in and help with humanitarian aid with Iran. Now, like I said, this Iran thing is directly connected to what's going on in Nigeria, that we've been talking about them invading Nigeria for the past 2 years. And the little sorties, they've been running into the highlands, north of Lagos, where all this stuff is going down. And these, quote-unquote, people that are involved with it are the special forces that were launching sorties into this place for a couple of years now, basing all of this basically in retaliation to the Nigerian government being the first government in the world, basically, that's not true, to be the first country basically to put out an arrest warrant for your man Dick Cheney. A lot of the problems and all of that stuff started with Nigeria, right? They put out the red notice, what they call burn notices. So with all of this stuff coming down the pipe, I was doing the knowledge to the research of the, they doing the research into the all of the dead birds that wind up dying and stuff. And so in researching that, the common factor is that basically all of the birds that were gone or that they took out or whatever were basically there as a means of correcting whatever issue that they were having because they were testing a product they referred to as phosphorus. So they created this thing based on phosphorus. Now that's the thing that's allegedly killing them first. Now the thing about phosphorus is a connection to it with your man Pascal Beverly Randolph. Pascal Beverly Randolph was the one historically who basically perfected the formula of phosphorus. And the thing about phosphorus is that when it's used in particular circumstances, once it's mixed with liquid, that's it. You can't see it anymore. It becomes untraceable. So what that means is that when the birds started falling out, this all started after the plant, after the was put forth. After they started doing a lot of like the spraying, like the same spraying that they have like with chemtrails and stuff like that. Well, they had the similar spraying dealing with the similar spraying coming from a specific company called. It turns out the company is a front for CIA as well. Yes, the company is called Evergreen International Aviation Company. And they were started by a guy named Delford Smith, who was a spook, a retired spook, who basically helped them set up what they call this Evergreen International Aviation Company, which is really a company that was used to promote fire to help prevent forest fires. They're like a company that you contract. If there's been like a rash of forest fires, you hire them, and what they do is they come down and they spray the clouds with whatever fire retardant or whatever it's going to be to able to do it. So this company, for whatever reason, has been loading up a whole shit with the phosphine, but then when they were trying to find out where it came from, they don't really have a means of controlling it. So what I think they're doing specifically is using the phosphine as the chemical that, due to its inertness in water, once fluid or whatever hits it, it's basically gone. You can't detect it anymore. So the way that you found, or the way that they found that some of the phosphine might be in there, was due to the fact that they had a extra amount of what they call trace acid in the water, which then, again, when you find where the trace acid basically busts down to an aspect of it with this chemical in it. Now, when Randolph was doing the phosphine or whatever, when you read all of the stories or whatever on him, he had turned it into a form sort of like a tincture, which is like a elixir almost, that was helping people like with things like what we would today call Alzheimer's and stuff like that, because he would add other elements to it as well. It wasn't like phosphine was just a base element. But from that, because he was the only one with the patent on it in the United States, again, the government was always hating on this dude. So I'm looking at it like after he was killed, assassinated him, that's when they got the formula on how to make it, mass produce it, and then ever since then it's been a wrap. But it's only been recently that they've even been talking about it in that sense. And I really doubt that they'll give the man Randolph the credit for it, for the invention of it. But he did a lot of great things like that. But in that now, I'm looking at it like it may be an attack on him. Because the funny thing is that a lot of the birds and stuff started falling out the sky towards the last week of September, first week of October of last year, which his birthday, symbolically, is October 8th, which is kind of like right around in the epicenter where a lot of this stuff started, while these birds start falling out the sky. So to me, this is all precursor to them trying to link themselves up with some sort of scripture or some sort of like scriptorial Armageddon type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Because whatever the Creator in reality puts out there, they have to create something in the physical world to emulate that power, to say that they are basically on the same level. So whereas the Creator exists in a non-physical, physical way, anything that they say or they interpret from the Creator, they got to make physical somehow. And so because in the end times it says that birds will be falling out the sky and all this other crap, this is basically how they're doing it. They're emulating themselves or patterning themselves after this form of ritual, you know? Which, again, has nothing to do with the fact that their society, as they have labeled it in this present stance, is over. Especially now that this guy, Santorum or whatever, or Perio, they little Iowa caucuses thing then passed. Now that that's passed, this is the time now for them to decide who's going to be the one to go up against the king, or who they perceive to be the king. The thing is, they don't have nobody that can beat him. I mean, you could just look at the TV and see the sorry state of affairs of people they got to choose from to actually step up to this worthless job now. But it don't stop them from doing it because they have to participate in the ritual. Because the ritual is what's keeping the country in the state that it's in. So they have to promote and act like they still give a damn about this and that, even though everything that they're regulating is the opposite end of that spectrum. Meaning that anything that they say that they are actually striving to do means that they're actually doing the opposite. So if the whole thing is about restructuring the country for unity's sake and bringing people back together on a common accord, that means that really it's about disrupting and kind of like pitting the American people against each other. You know what I'm saying? Which, again, we know is the name of the game, but you have to understand you still have a group of people in this country who are down for it like that. You know what I mean? Like, they're still looking at it like because we don't necessarily have chains on our necks anymore, that we're somehow progressive, that things have somehow gotten better in the material sense, even though, you know, crime is down. The rate of black male death is up by 12%. This is not black-on-black crime now, if you will. This is all based on the police. They've basically got an average where they say the police kill at least 5 to 6 people every 2.5 weeks. You understand? And of that, 85% of the people they're killing is black males. What's up with that? But it ain't just white males killing these brothers. It's black males. You know what I'm saying? Killing other black males, but because they the police or whatever, you know what I'm saying, they justify it. But it's gotten to the point where so many people have been killed. So many people have been killed, and so many people have been put in positions to do that. They don't have a because they don't really have that, you know. So these are some of the unnatural things that be going down, but also being able to put it in further. They have almost orchestrated or masterminded a way to poison, like I said, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of birds, specifically from the animal kingdom, which means that all of that is a preliminary test. Because now we got to see if they can, or they got to see if they can cross-breed the Philistines to be able to affect humans in the same way it's affecting these animals. And then see when the humans go to try to find out how they all just dropping dead all of a sudden, no reason, Philistine is not even going to be looked at because of the fact that the trace minerals in it disappear once you add it to water. So all you got to do is put it in an airborne agent, such as a crop duster or a plane with the exhaust, and what they've been doing with the chemtrails for all these years. And there you go. So these are some of the things that we got to really start to do the knowledge to, because in 2012, this is the year for them to, or how I should say, they want to be able to link themselves up with the old Mayan scripture. So even though we know this is not necessarily the end of the world, it is basically the necessary end of their world. So again, what they got to do is make you believe that you grew up along the same genetic lines that they did. Therefore, if it's the end of their world, then that means it got to be the end of your world too. And we know that that's not the case, because there's never been a time that the Creator has not existed. Therefore, there's never been a time that you haven't existed if you believe in the Creator. Therefore, you are in that moment of what they call a Big Bang of creation or whatever right now. Just by you acknowledging the fact that a God does exist. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of one of the biggest secrets in a sense, is the fact that people don't place so much emphasis in how they feel about some spirituality. Because spirituality, according to some, is dictated upon what type of economics you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Or what kind of political power base you're broadcasting from. So if you don't necessarily want to lead anybody, but you want to help people, you are always going to be obfuscated by people who want the opposite of that. They don't necessarily want to help people. They just want to be able to tell people what to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's not cool. That's an instance of which people have perpetuated an unsafe reality. And now this reality has perpetuated itself against them. And so, as opposed to them finding a way to deal with it in its true capacity, what they have chosen to do is ally themselves with it. You know what I'm saying?
It's very hard to stand by yourself and say this is what we represent, what our collective body represents. When it's 2 or 4 people, but more than that, it's more like 300 to 3,000. Sometimes I'd rather 300 intellectual real niggas than 3,000 superfluous motherfuckers. But some people think that, magic is in that, and that's great. Then all the fake magicians go to that.
Right.
And then magic.
But it's the quality versus quantity thing, and our people have suffered from that from a long time. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of just like that, guys, And the more I'm seeing it as that, the more it's like I be in certain cycles and people becoming even more and more inclusive. You know what I mean? More inclusive to people who are not necessarily bigoted to they forward or progressive movement, whatever that movement may be. But it's not for me or you to judge and try to convince them that they need to be about this or that or whatever, or they need to do it their way. It's for them to find out. But that's what I'm trying to say. A lot of people get this metaphysics thing twisted. They get it in reverse. It's almost like because you're metaphysical, it's like you can't never be mad. You know what I mean? You can't never get frustrated behind shit. You can't never feel like there's certain things or forces maybe unseen or seen moving against you, and if you do that, then it becomes an issue with you. Then it's like, oh, well, what are you doing to bring that into your life? It's not always like that. You know what I mean? It's not always that the same negative things that you're going through because it's something that you are not doing. That's a cop-out too, man. And that's another way for people to get into your mind and tell your brain that you can't, that you ain't doing enough, that you got to necessarily do things in a certain way that other people are doing, or you're not going to find yourself worthy or qualified. And that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was watching this thing the other night, and they had, what was them people, New Kids on the Block, and the other ones that was out back in the day. And, what was it called? The Backstreet Boys. And these dudes have been doing a NKTOB VHB tour for the past, 2 years? And these dudes, they right under U2 with concert sales. Now, we all remember when these groups came out. You know what I'm saying? And we know that they was basically there to replace other groups. Why they created it like that. And, you know what I'm saying, what it showed me was that, again, these people revere their music. They revere the things that they're doing. Even though it be fake. Even though they know that they was never as good as New Edition or whatever. But one thing about white folk is that they support they BS. They've created a world where they have perpetuated a lie that everybody knows is not true, but everybody act like it is. Which lie are you talking about? Take your pick, man. Whether it's the fact that all you think people here from Africa, or none of y'all people that there was no people here when they got here, and that the people that was living here when they got here was so savage that they couldn't do nothing, but then they tell you out of their same breath, out of their same mouth, that these so-called savages was the same one teaching them how to make food and everything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's becoming more and more hard for them to keep these airs on, you know what I'm saying, that have nothing to do with where our true history derives and exists. It exists within us. It does not exist in any matrix that exists outside of the sphere of our influence. But like I said, these people are taking the stance that you and I, or we, have abandoned our government. Therefore, we have sought refuge up under them, which gave them the right to turn us into federalized 14th Amendment citizens, which then would give them the jurisdictional right to kill us, exact fines on us, and everything else, man. So these are some of the things I'm doing in non-school in the opening of this fake Gregorian New Year that don't really begin until New Year, which is in March. However, you know what I'm saying? As much as we are non-physical here, we're still kind of physical here. So some of us, no matter how metaphysical we are, we still find ourselves in situations where we are kind of participating in the rituals of those who, you know, believe that, you know, you can have that, you know, trees or seeds start to bloom in January. Like, okay, you know, that's what people believe. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. But see, when you become the quote-unquote nitpicker and you start to really go in, why you feel like this, who taught you that, how can that be when it's the opposite? Then you're a problem. Then you're a smart ass. Then you're looking too deep into it. Oh, it's just New Year. Get over it. It ain't that deep. It's never that deep when it comes to shit that you really care about. You notice that? It's never that deep when it comes to something structurally and what we would consider culturally that deals with how you represent yourself as an original man or original woman. It's some white folks that even take offense to that. You calling yourself an original person. You know? And their problem now, like with the words like nigga and stuff like that, ain't because of the fact of the racial connotation. It's the fact that they know that they don't have the right to say it. That's the only problem they got with it, the fact that they can't participate in it the same way. But if they could get a little white girl rapper to start saying it or whatever, and then you could get one of these brain-dead big-time rappers in saying it to basically co-sign it, put their name on it, say, okay, yeah, well, you could be a nigga, you can call me a nigga, whatever, then it's all good. But it ain't that this rapper may like the fact that, you know, she call niggas, whatever. It's just the fact that niggas' God is money now. Niggas' integrity is all based on money now. It has nothing to do with how you feel about things. It has nothing to do with whether it's good, whether the song is good or whatever. It has nothing to do with any of that anymore. It's about money. It's about, do you have enough money to pay me to feature you on this joint? And if so, then it will blow up. If not, then you won't. So again, talent. So when niggas be telling me about talent in the game and all this other shit, it's like when niggas be telling you talent and working hard and all this other crap that you be seeing these niggas be talking about on 106 and Park and all that, how they got there. That may be all well and good. But to keep it real with you, the game don't run on talent. The game stopped being about talent years ago. When the record companies realized that they could start to make more money off of rap than hip-hop, then rap became the viable means of expression for hip-hop. You understand? It had nothing to do with what we wanted. You understand? It has nothing to do with that. This is about what was commercially and economically viable for the country to reinvest itself, because at the time, if it wasn't for hip-hop, this country would have been gone. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for hip-hop, this world would have been blown up. That's how ill we are in terms of our dynamic design and what it is we've been put here to do and what we've been blessed to create. But once we stopped respecting the craft, once we started making records about how much of a hoe the game is and how we're going to turn it out and this, and that, you know what I'm saying? Then you wonder why, you know, Eminem or one of these niggas could be the best rapper in the world or the greatest rapper alive or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Sad, man. You know what I'm saying? Because it really don't got to be like this. So as we are still basically in 2011, even though, you know, everybody else is perpetuating the opposite based on the Gregorian year, this means that those of us who understand and know that are basically ahead of the game. But it means that our year is a little longer. It's taking longer to come to a close. But this just means that the Creator's giving us more time to get our shit in order, more time to get our affairs straight. You know what I'm saying? Because specifically speaking, with this, coming down, the other part that they're not talking about is all of the quote-unquote rumbling and earthquakes that people have been feeling in the Midwest area specifically. They're not even reporting them more. The ones that they're reporting are really the light ones. The heavy ones are the ones that's like collapsing city blocks and shit like that. A couple of months ago, they had a thing where they had a giant gas main explode, and it blew up like 2 whole city blocks. They blamed it on the gas, but the gas main lines that they were talking about didn't even run under that section of those blocks. What's going on is you have a contingent that is against these people preserving themselves in the event of some sort of cataclysm. So a lot of the underground bases and shit that these people are building up and have been building up for a couple of years now are under attack by the different factions that are warring within the government. You see, like when he go on TV, like when one of them go on TV, for instance, and they'll say something like, if you don't give us the defense budget, then there will be another terror attack. That statement, ambiguous as it is a direct threat. But because we live in a country in which they've taught people how to disavow the truth, when they hear it, it's up to conjecture for you to look at it or take it like that. So if you didn't take it like that, and that's not necessarily what he said, then you can disavow that he even was putting it out there. But we know what this nigga means. But again, we're at the stage where people don't know how to communicate directly to one another. The luxury of direct communication has become somewhat stagnant, and that has produced an element amongst us where we don't really, where some of us don't really know if what we are feeling and thinking is basically, it's like we almost feel like everything that we feel is like it's just us feeling that we're alone. And that's exactly how they want us to feel. That's exactly what they want us to do. They want us to isolate and feel like if you don't agree or you want to do things a certain way that may be not like everybody else, then somehow or another you are holding up the progress of everyone else. And that's not true. You got to wonder why certain people need so many other people to co-sign them. You got to always look at that co-sign shit, because that's another form of into the apprenticeship. It's another way of getting your energy validated by somebody else that may not really be in the same level that you want. But because they've been involved in something a little longer and they seem to have more degrees, then that's what it is. And life is way deeper than that. It is way deeper than that. So, as everybody's been talking about the 2012 thing, now that we're in it, people should know that for those people who have read or even started to investigate, books that deal with the coming cataclysm, whether it be the Popol Vuh or the Book of Revelation in the Bible or whatever, anything dealing with a rapture is dealing with the transference of one form of energy into another. One form of enlightenment swapped for a truer form of enlightenment. And the people around being strong enough to see and intuit that this is what's coming up. And that's your salvation, your redemption is based upon how you really see yourself, not so much how anybody else sees you. It baffles me sometimes when you have people who are so churchy and be in situations where they're going in on shit and they don't really take into account that when they talk about an infallible God, they give this same infallible God human characteristics which are flawed. But then when you say that God is man, they say, no, he can't be that. But the image that they refer to God as is a man. So really, God as a man is just not the man that we know him to be to them. You know what I'm saying? But man is realized in God. You know what I'm saying? So man becomes God when God realizes man. Therefore, we are always in a position to actually be on the crossroads of heaven and hell, or up and down, right and left, whatever it's going to do to get us where we need to go. These things that you are experiencing right now are a definite part of your overall ascension, your overall protocol. So those people that you find it hard to commiserate with, even though maybe last year y'all was ace on cones and you can't do that now, this means that you are progressing at a different rate. There's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong in being on your own level, because it's not about reaching my level of excellence. It's about reaching the level of excellence that is excellent for you and you alone. Because you're born into this place alone, you're dying in this place alone, man. So while you get the alliances and allegiances and things that you make are things that you have to make. Whether they're benefiting you or not is really irrelevant to the experience, because the experience itself is life. And life itself is something that you can only, really, we all should be living. But most of us is just at a state where we're damn near, we lucky if we survive in life. Mm-hmm. Living life, surviving life, two different things, man. Two different things. And they will always be. So long as we're in a situation where we are striving to contemplate our existence based upon someone else's opinion of us. Can't continue to do it, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what that was. Like I said, we're only going to go to about 10:30. So if anybody has any questions, okay. So if anybody has any questions, real quick, they can click in. 773 on Super Heru Radio.
Oh, hello.
Steve.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Queen, how you doing?
I'm doing good. This is my first time calling in. Me and my sister sitting at home in Chicago listening to you live.
All right. What's up? Tri-Town, stand up. What's up, y'all? Thanks for
I'm calling to ask, have you heard about these, I think it's like 17 underground pyramids they found? And
yeah.
If you heard about that, can you elaborate on that for us?
Yes, actually, this is tied into what I was saying with the underground bases. What's happening is that the present government is at war with itself. So you have a contingency within this government that are conflicted as to how they want this phase of the world to end. So one half wants to basically enslave everybody and keep everybody enslaved, and then the other half wants to keep up the incrementalism, the slow slavery, if you will. So in the process of that, you have the so-called underground bases that they've been building up since 1950, really. They actually call them DUMBs. The actual acronym for underground bases are called DUMBs, D-U-M-B-S, which stands for militarized underground, something, I forget what the D stands for, but it's something underground military bases, base sector. And then what they've been doing is they've been outsourcing the building of bases. So being that they want to be able to hide somewhere or whatever, and stop if they do a nuclear strike or something, they've created these bases. But what's been happening recently is that somebody's been torching these bases and dropping nuclear bombs in them, and they've been irradiating them, so they can't really use them. You see what I'm saying? So in the process of that, they are using forest fires and mudslides and all that other shit in the Midwest to kind of hide all of that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these storms. So in one of these quote-unquote attacks, the pyramid under Montauk Point, there's a pyramid under Montauk Point in Maine, like at the tip of, I guess, Maine, Long Island. And that pyramid is connected to a whole line of underground pyramids that were purposely buried by our ancestors around the years of 1791 and 1865, like the Civil War. So these underground pyramids that they find in, for some reason, have been vibrating at a certain resonance in which they've been creating like almost like a hum that people who live over them are starting to hear and starting to like become a big thing. So they're using a lot of the political unrest and stuff like that to kind of like hide where a lot of this supposed energy is coming from. So they have a complete network of these tunnels, but the ones in the Midwest are like in bad shape because of whoever's down there destroying them, which again is stopping these people from going into the earth. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Well, can I ask you? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, so there are pyramids here in the U.S. or in the Americas. These are ancient underground pyramids.
You have
or were they built?
Well, you have ones that are underground, and then you have some that are above. The underground ones are like the one I was talking about at Montauk Point. There's another one under Georgia. There's another one, another underground, allegedly under Dallas, Texas. Like, they got them all over the place. The other above-ground pyramids that you'll see a lot more are the mounds. What they call mounds hills. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you'll see a hill, and you'll be walking up a hill, and you think it's a hill, when actually that's a mound. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So a lot of these great mounds that we built or whatever were basically all to show how far the dominion of our people extended. So around the time of the changeover, you know, let's say between 1791 and 1865, a lot of the wise elders, sort of the wars and stuff was going to start to come down. They got a lot of the young braves and stuff to go start to bury a lot of the artifacts, specifically the pyramids. That's why, like in the Grand Canyon, they have if you Google online and type in the Temple of Isis in the Grand Canyon, they're going to show you a complex of mountains that when you look at them in comparison to the Valley of the Kings, they look exactly the same. And the fact that they call it the Temple of Isis, we look at those big rocks. You know, sometimes you see them big, funny-looking rocks. They'll be like a giant, almost it'll look like maybe like an obelisk. And at the top, there'll be like a little other rock, and there'll be no rocks around it. But they'll be having rocks that kind of look like they used to be buildings and shit. That's because a lot of those things that we look at as rocks are actually eroded pyramids and earthen works that were eroded after the second flood. You know? Which is why this is why every year and a half they flood the Grand Canyon. You know what I'm saying? And keep people from going into those sections where these things are at.
Okay. I guess another question I have is, if these pyramids exist, who kept the original people from, I guess, knowing about them and having like access to them over the last couple hundreds of years? Meaning, like, why is this information? Is it only passed down to, you know, a small select group of people? Why isn't it more widespread? Why aren't more like original people going to these places that have these, or learning more about them? And it's like all we know about are the pyramids that are in Egypt.
Well, yes, but when you extend Egypt jurisdiction to mean anywhere where the Phoenician people exist or existed,
Yeah.
that's so clear. So you'll hear them, they'll talk about Kemet sometimes, and they'll talk about the difference between, let's say, the Red Nile and the Blue Nile.
Yeah.
The Red Nile and the Blue Nile, all of it, that is basically, the Red Nile represents the Nile over there in what they call Egypt. The Blue Nile will represent the Mississippi River over here. There's a book written by a guy named Horace Butler called When Rocks Cry Out that gets into that. There's another great book by a guy named Sultan Abdul Latif called When Nations Gather that gets into the native, the indigenous or continent thing that we have popping over here. Where basically everything that is named over there is named after something that was over here first. So in Egyptology and chematology, when they talk about the El Amarna dynasty, they talk about the capital of Kemet being Memphis. They're not talking about Memphis in Egypt. They're talking about Memphis over here. Same thing when they talk about Memphis, Tennessee. When they're talking about also when they're talking about what's the name of that place? When they're talking about Memphis, they're talking about over here. Also, when they're talking about the Alps, like Hannibal crossed the Alps. Alps just means alpine. So any alpine region, you know what I'm saying? They could be talking about Egypt. But because they always phenotypically split up everything, this is part of a Masonic ritual that is connected to a degree called the Grand Orient, in which the purpose is to orient or reorient people's consciousness to understand the world in a different way. Meaning that what we perceive the earth to be is one thing, or the geographic location of certain places is one thing, but what they really mean is something else. And they get degrees in concealing, learning how to conceal that. You know what I'm saying? So again, when they're talking about Egypt, or when you're talking about Kemet or Memphis, the El Amarna dynasty, you're talking about over there, over here. When they're talking about Mansa Musa and Montezuma, they're talking about the same person. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
When they're talking about the Iroquois Confederacy and the Continental Congress and the tribe of Ben Ishmael, they're talking about the same people. But when they talk about the United States Congress, they're talking about Africa. You can have the United States Congress, and then you can have the Congress of the United States. You know what I'm saying? Those are two different things.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So unless you know which United States you're part of, you won't really know how to proceed with them jurisdiction. That's what they got on everybody.
Okay. Can I ask a question also?
Sure.
That's my sister. I know we're in 2012, and I know they're talking about like ascending and stuff like that. But how can we as black people tap into our power to ascend, or is the ascension going to be in another universe or a paradigm?
Well, that's interesting.
I'm sorry?
I said that's real interesting. The ascension that we're talking about is going to be individually distinctive for everybody who is choosing that. So how it may happen for me may not be the same way it happened for you. But
okay,
the aspect of the ascension is the same. It's going to happen. So one way to start to make that happen or to feel that happening is to start to weed out or wean out those people in your life that don't have the best interest in mind. Meaning start to get rid of the physical or material distractions that exist in your present reality that's strictly from being in spiritual education. If you're in situations and you're talking to people and you can't talk to them about stuff like this, but I can ridicule you, then those people are there to ridicule.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
That's what they're doing. So if that's what they're doing, we can't act like they're doing something else. So that means that their purpose is, again, not what your purpose is. So this don't mean that you have to cut them off right away, but it is to mean that they are not on the same path that you're on, and that's okay.
Okay.
So purging one of one's distractions is one way. Another way to do it is to focus on what it is you are working or trying to understand your purpose to be here. You know?
Right.
Be honest with yourself. You know? A lot of us strive to be positive more than anything else. But that's not real. And that's not balanced. It is maladapted to be more positive with somebody than they are with you.
Right.
Only because that means that you are basically casting your pearls to swine. You're giving more energy to somebody than giving to you. And what's worse is you're not seeing a return. So it's not to say that everything you do to help people, you got to see something in return, but this is a place of give and take. So if you did something, you are supposed to receive something. It has nothing to do with whether or not you want it or whatever. This is what it is. You get what you put in, and you get out what you put out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's another way you can get it.
Okay.
So on that level, you can do that. On another level, you can start to practice visualization.
Okay.
And start to prepare yourself in your space in terms of what we will call space travel. We have an online class for beginners, for beginning veterans and veteran beginners that basically get into the aspects of exactly what it is to talk about, like specifically, like what is consciousness? What is the difference between the consciousness, metaphysics? You know, what is metaphysics? What is awareness? What's the difference? You know what I mean? What is the Kabbalah?
Yeah.
Like, why is that?
Yeah.
You know,
right.
How come a diamond? Or worse, what is melanin, and how does it apply to metaphysics? And is metaphysics itself an actual expression of melanin? These things are kind of the abstract aspects of things that are becoming more and more important to us.
Right.
So if these things don't interest you, or if they don't interest people around you, then that means that they are ascending on a different path than you are. Their path is going to be more material. You see what I'm saying? Whereas yours is to learn how to balance your physical human experience with your spiritual soul experience. You know?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So really, it's really about reaching your level of excellence more so than matching somebody else's.
Okay. So this ascension is a spiritual journey.
Yeah, it's a natural process of human evolution at this stage of our lives. So the more you're putting yourself in a position to learn more about stuff like this, the more you are creating a space for you in the future to manifest that for yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the only limitation is really that which you put on yourself with it.
I see.
So the more you can use your imagination, the more you can project yourself into different scenarios, reality, whether it be in your dream, your lucid dream, your meditation, the more you're able to create a space in your mind, which is the soul of your brain, to be able to make this ascension. And again, it's ridiculous who you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I could say that everybody's going to start to feel a pit of butterflies in their stomach start to rise
Right.
up, and it starts to feel like real hot at the base of your neck as it rises to the crown chakra. That may not necessarily be how it happens, but there may be parts of that are familiar. See?
Yeah. Speaking of lucid dreaming, and there was one time where I felt myself astral project back to Africa. It felt like, and I was coming through like fire, and I could see like little children looking at me through the flames, and so that was like one time I had experience with traveling.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And the thing is, when you go through an experience, you got to know that it's really happening.
Right.
It's not like you just like look like want to make that happen. It's not like you want to. It's mad at them. I know. It's like all of these people. It's like the more you are concerned about this, the more the reality that we all share will start to open up things for you to see how deep this goes. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I say it's not so much about somebody else's level of excellence, it's on yours. What do you want your new world to be? What do you want your ascension to be comprised of? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
More so than me saying, hey, we all a group of black people, and we moving up the same way, and we all got to do it like this, and if we don't do it like this, then that means we're not really doing it. That's a trap. That's me trying to convince you to think like me to get the same result that I can get, which that could never happen.
Right. Yeah.
You know
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for calling in and peace to your sister as well.
Okay. Peace to you and the queen.
Peace to you.
Thank you. Peace to you and your queen and your son.
Thank you.
Your other kids too.
Y'all for the support.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Peace. Peace. 225, you on Super Heavy Radio? Peace. Can you hear me? Okay. Like I said, body, more questions. Pick up real quick. Not, we can close it out. Anybody has a question from the chat, something too. Another good thing you need to look out for, I don't know if anybody has seen this movie. It's called Another Earth. We talked about it once on the show, but if anybody has not seen that, for some people, it's looking for crazy action, not like mad action, but the premise is what we've been talking about on the show since kind of the start of the show, which basically is that we are reaching a stage in our physical evolution, spiritual ascension, in which we are meeting the spirit doubles of ourselves, meaning alternate versions of yourself that remind you of you, but it's not necessarily you. Well, in this movie, Another Earth, the premise was basically that, but they flipped it a little in the sense that when the people went to somehow or another on the eve of a certain event, this girl gets into a car accident. But this event, basically, she was listening to a hip-hop radio station, and the VJ, whose name was Flavor, tells the world that scientists have discovered an Earth-like planet that looks exactly like Earth, with a moon and everything. And so the girl winds up going into a car, gets into a car crash, and she gets locked down for about 4 years. So basically the premise is this alternate Earth has manifested in physical reality in which we could see it the same way like you'll see the moon during the day in the sky. You'll see this Earth and this moon
out there in the sky. And so they were trying to create ways to get out there. But it opened up a whole stream of questions like, is this other Earth? Do I exist there? If I exist there, am I me? And if I'm the same me that exists on that Earth, does that mean that I get to meet myself? And if so, am I going to look at myself the same way that I look at me in the form of a mirror now? See, it's different when it's a mirror, because a mirror can't talk back. But if you were presented with an etheric version of yourself from an alternate reality that you are now sharing the same space with, that creates a whole nother quantum fusion. Because it used to be, they used to tell us things like, nothing can escape a black hole, or that light can't escape a black hole right away, that none of these things can exist. It used to be that two objects of the same mass, the same space, the same potential energy could not occupy the same space at once. If so, there will be a destruction of both due to the fact that one cannot exist in the same space of a like-minded energy. Now they're basically saying that that's not true, that things do escape black holes. You know what I'm saying? Sound does come out of them, because they've been picking up sound coming out of black holes for a couple of years now. They just ain't been telling nobody. And due to the militarization of space, which is kind of we're in the precursor to that now, they want to create situations where you are kind of at the whim of them when it comes to all things dealing with the upper realms. But this movie was also very significant due to the fact that it was dealing with aspects of quantum mechanics and things that we have been seeing in the hieroglyphs for years. How many times have you seen an image of Heru, who is Horus, standing or enthroned, and then before him is another version of a pharaoh or somebody else that's hailing him up? Or how many times have you seen images of Heru leading a candidate or apprentice or whatever through a certain area by the hand? These are examples, physical or pictorial examples of this corresponding energy of the fact that you do exist in a myriad of different realities simultaneously. And that in living at all these things in a simultaneous fashion, when you get to a point in that existence where you may occupy a space that all versions of yourself are occupying at that same moment, that's what they refer to as deja vu. Which is why in the movie Deja Vu, in order for him to be able to be resurrected, he had to go back in the past and save the dead girl who was supposed to live. And in the process of that, he resurrected himself by coming up back through the water. Again, water being a transmitted utility for spiritual and dimensional energy and frequency. Because water kind of exists everywhere. Even if it's not water, it's going to be hydrogen. You know what I mean? So even if it's not liquid water, it's going to be some sort of hydrogen, because nothing in the physical realm can exist without it. Not even a desert. You understand? There has to be participation. So, like I said, this movie is very interesting. And would really take it to, or extrapolate the idea to the end, you can see why they have so many issues. Why nowadays you're seeing the same behavior exhibited by people who may not even know each other, but because they're somehow connected to you, you are seeing an exhibit of idealized behavior that's consistent based upon who is the individual exhibiting the behavior. Because sometimes what will happen is that we will pick up the trace elements or the trace reality of what it is of ourselves in another reality. Yet all realities intersect through the soul. So all of the different dreams that you've been having since you've been dreaming are really just visitations of you in different alternate versions of yourself in these alternate realities that have always existed and will always exist. It's called Metaphysics for Beginners. The class this month, somebody asked about it. The class this month, actually, to keep it real with you, I don't really like going in on it, what it is on the show like that. I'd rather, it's mad people. What I would rather do is if you can email me directly, HOUSE, houseofl@hotmail.com, I can send you the flyer and you can see it all for yourself. Because I'm learning that in order to keep this work diligent and consistent, I got to kind of not necessarily forecast like what I'm doing all the time out. I just feel like I said with the people directly. So in that, if you email me directly, houseofl@hotmail.com, I can send you the flyer and everything else. Yeah. So, because we're into keeping things on a certain level, we want to stay consistent with that, not get too many other people kind of like
copy and paste. Copy and paste.
Copying and pasting.
Copy.
Exactly.
What they realize is that intelligence goes further than copying and pasting. When you stand in front of a crowd of people and you try to carry conversation past a paragraph, they realize, oh shit, maybe this nigga really does know more. But it's great. You see how condescending I can be. Because it's to the point that sometimes, I studied theater. I went to school for acting, Syracuse for theater. So I see how many people really deserve Academy Awards right now. Like studying human behavior, where their eyes gaze goes, what their intention is, how they get the crowd hyped. It's amazing, but not everybody is intellectual. You can sell knowledge, but you're not necessarily smart.
Yeah, there's a guy that's out here who has been producing a lot of material that to a lot of these patriots is now becoming like a mainstream thing for them to use, in a sense, to help fulfill their agenda as being the primary proponents of American liberty. However, a lot of their problem is based on the fact that they can't really claim anything due to the fact that the government knows that they were all slaves prior to them coming into the game. So all of the quote-unquote millionaires in this country that you call millionaires, remember, ask yourself this: if all these things came over here on the Mayflower and they were drugged up criminals and, Puritans or whatever it is, how is it that within 10 to 15, let's say, how is it within 30 years of them being here, these niggas all turn into the millionaires and become the heads of all of these so-called 13 families that everybody be talking about every other day? Same thing. You got people so twisted now where they think that Jay-Z is the head of the damn quote-unquote Illuminati. Like, you got so many people winning on him, specifically. So, what I'm saying, dealing with that, they done got it so twisted that black people now looking at him like he's the Antichrist, like he's the only one in the game, or like the whole Rockefeller thing started with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to turn the puppets into the princes, man. These people are puppets. These people are disinformation junkies. These people are there to distract you. When anybody around you start using terms like Illuminati, 13 bloodline family, start asking them who they talk about, man. Don't just take it for its face value. And don't let them just keep telling you the same people. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, who the other one? The Rothschild Rockefellers, who the other one they talk about? The Bushes, the Clintons, right? And that's kind of it. Like, these are the only people in the whole thing that's been running. When I told everybody last week, if you look into the principles committee, these are the people that's telling the so-called president what to do. This nigga don't have the ability to shake these white folk down like that. Since he's been in office, he's been bragging about killing niggas. Everybody he killed has been non-white people. Have you noticed that? Everybody that he has murked has been somebody that's not Caucasian. What's up with that? I mean, this nigga is never going to come up with a national referendum against police brutality. That's what black people need. That would protect specifically black people. If these pigs knew that there would be actual, real repercussions for them killing niggas, they would stop. But to keep it real, some of that also happens to us because we're the only ethnic group in this country that don't pay off the cops. The era of black people paying off the cops and black organized crime, all of that went out with Frank Lucas and the rest of them dudes. By the time the crack era came out, that all got reorganized and reflipped into, you know, the Nino Brown era and all of that. And even that, ain't nobody, the white man that came out and said he created crack to specifically string our race back, to push our race back 100 years. These niggas done said it. They done said it in a congressional deliberation. Do you think any black people in media or TV ever told that any of these white people going to jail, any black people going to jail for any of that shit? Hell no. They're not going to do that. You think any black people who is in government right now is going to stand up and say, hey, y'all, we need to start to impeach and lock these niggas up for what it is they did to our people? No. Because once you get into government, you step out of the realm of humanity. Once you step into being a police, anything that is created by man that you have to access by becoming a part of, especially when it is giving you a gun or a sword to enforce over someone else, that is a form of oppression. And most oppressed people become the biggest oppressors because they don't want to go back to being oppressed anymore. So what they do is they go extra hard. You know, kind of like the cop in Boys to Men, the black cop in Boys to Men as opposed to the white. However, all of this stuff that we're talking about have lived through has been based upon the Anglo, quote-unquote, establishment, Nazi-connected view of anyone that is not melanated having to be under the jurisdiction of them or having to give up their base genetic material to them in order to live and survive here. So if you don't agree with that, that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's just a problem. Super Heru Radio.
Peace.
Peace.
Can you hear me?
Peace. Yes, sir. I can hear you. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I want to say peace to you and your family. I got a question, Aseer. What importance, if any, does trivium, quadrivium have in our day-to-day lives? The 7 liberal arts.
Okay. The 7 liberal arts, what do they have to do with your present position? Huh?
If anything.
Well, I think it's like everything else. It's really what you think necessary at this stage. You know? Like the liberal arts is really good, especially for not necessarily level.
You fading away, Aseer. I can't hear you.
I said it's really cool, or they work for people, especially when you got to decide for who's on the level and who's not. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, lying is one of the very liberal arts. Yeah. So knowing when and how to lie, who to lie to, is just as important as what the lie will be about and how to perpetuate it. So in their society, they have taken that principle to the next level. Because they have taken it to mean that if you believe it, it's not a lie. You know what I'm saying? So they created a whole thing, a whole lie in that thing called manifest destiny and killed people to force them to believe it. Therefore, the lie is now the truth. It's not the truth to us, but it has become the truth. So much so that when we start talking about what truth is, the people who hear the truth from us will hear it as a lie because they believe the lie first. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So when you're dealing with interpersonal relationships,
right.
one way to safeguard yourself like that is to practice active listening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm on.
Because some people
you
talk to you, or you talk to them, and they're not listening. They're just waiting for you to finish so they can start talking again. As most people. But when you practice active listening, what you're doing is slowing the pace down enough to get them to see that what it is they're asking you may not really be what it is they're asking. So one way to do that is when people is asking some outlandish shit, repeat it back to them in the form of the question so they can hear how crazy they sound with the shit. You know?
Okay.
Another way to do it is to look at people when they start to talk, ask them something, which is some of the things we talk about in class when we start the swing day, which is if somebody's talking to you and you ask them something direct, so they're not being truthful, you ask them another question, you got to look at which way the eyes go. They learn that from the Moors, specifically the Hashisha. Have you seen this game called Assassin's Creed? It's like a video game.
Yeah, I'm all the way on top of it. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying? So they already knew how to do that through observing what they refer to as pantomime. And then what the devil did was he created a company where he could teach people how to act. That's why the acting thing is so crazy right now with them. Because really, if you really look at it, most of these people ain't acting. Like Tom Cruise act the same in every movie. George Clooney act the same in every movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Very few of them go all out and switch up their whole thing to do somebody else in a role. But most of them, the 90% of them, they all act the same. That's because it's more about the personality than the story and the information here in America. Whereas in England, it's less about the star and more about the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I appreciate that because I was just thinking about how to cut out some bullshit when I'm dealing with people. You know.
Yes.
Trying to listen to what they say, think about what they're saying, and try to see what type of message they bring in that sequence. And it's been helping me a little bit. Well, I can say a lot. It's been helping me a lot.
Now, you look at it like you create a situation as this. It's like we in this country have to broken down when it comes to learning. You know what I mean? And what we perceive to teach, specifically to teach. You know what I'm saying? Like when we think of teacher, no matter how enlightened we are, some of us will still bring it back to what we do, what we know as teachers to teach. You know what I'm saying? Based upon growing up here. But how we are taught here is not really taught anything. We're more children of memorization. So a lot of times what happens is that people start to become almost so desirous of a certain outcome that they feel they can't equate it by themselves. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is they leave themselves open for post-hypnotic suggestion. You know what I'm saying? So a post-hypnotic suggestion is anything that is told to somebody that leads to an outcome. So post-hypnotic suggestion is you walking down the street, you see somebody with, let's say, a pair of sneakers, and then for some reason later on you get the sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Or you out eating and you want to get a meal or something, and then somebody next to you eats something, you're like, oh, wow, what's that? I want that. You know what I'm saying? That's a nonverbal post-hypnotic suggestion. Because we are all influenced by whatever. So in that, what are you going to say? I'm sorry.
So no, I was just gonna say I live in the city. I'm in the inner city, so and I'm in the streets a lot, you know, doing my job. But the people that I see, so basically they are brainwashed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You know that's the natural condition of somatic life here. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like everybody's been somewhat almost pacified, especially after 2001. So another way you can start to discern people is when you're walking down the street, always imagine yourself walking with a octahedron around you. You ever see that video game, The Sims?
What's the name of it?
The Sims?
Yeah, The Sims. Yeah.
Okay. You know how they have that green diamond shape above their head when they be walking around?
Yeah.
That's octahedron. That is what is around each one of us when we walk around it, but we don't realize it. That shape is the hyperdimensional symbol of universal protection.
Is that the the symbol with Kabbalah, the tree? Is that the same symbol?
The diamond symbol of a diamond.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The whole thing together.
Right.
Okay.
The eight-sided diamond octahedron. So that, if you imagine that around you, violet, instead of it being above your head, imagine you walking in it like a force field around you, violet. That keeps a lot of negative stuff away from you. Visualization. Also, when you're talking to people and you are listening to them, let's say they talk to you, whatever, when you're practicing the act of listening, see if you can project the color orange on the person as they're talking. If the color orange cannot necessarily set itself over the person, that means that the person's probably lying. Because orange is the sympathetic color of truth. You know what I'm saying? So like when you're dreaming and you're going through something and you want to see if it's real, try to project it in orange. If it don't stay in orange, then it's not real. It's a hallucination. Same thing in physical reality. You project color, because remember, we live in a colorable society, so everything is color-oriented, and each color has its own vibration and frequency. So if somebody, especially somebody, government, police, whatever, is talking, and you'll want to protect yourself from that, imagine yourself in violet and then burning them up in a violet light. They'll get away from it. Especially now in 2012, people have opened themselves up to believe that this is the end. So at the end, anything is possible, right?
Right.
Okay. So that means that they have opened themselves up spiritually or psychosomatically for anything to potentially happen. So you can use that power as a means of protection against yourself. Against them. Because the psychic or let's say mental realm is the psychic realm. You know what I'm saying? And the psychic realm is governed by different laws than the physical realm.
Appreciate that.
know what I'm saying? So definitely try that. Also, do the spring cleaning and anybody make that list of those people in your life that support and those people that's not. If the list of the people that support is longer than the list that's not, then that's great. If it's the opposite, then you gotta prune your tree.
No, that's already been done. They know I don't let too many people around me or talk to me or even deal with me unless, like I said, like it's on my job. So no, I don't play with a lot of people. I ain't got time. That way don't nobody get hurt,
Exactly. You'll really protect them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Cause you go through enough, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? So you always on the job, and that's what I'm saying. We're always looking out because we're responsible because we know. Once you know, it's real hard unless you get mind wiped, you know what I'm saying? And even then, shit start coming back and crashing based upon triggers. And everything is a trigger here for somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I got a whole list of trigger phrases and stuff that, I have to ask certain clients when we're going through whatever session just to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, that they're not influenced by that,
Okay.
Or to isolate which one, you know what I mean, is that. Because then once you know what one is triggered by which, you can kind of lay a pattern of to where the abuse or trauma or whatever specifically is coming from, based upon the origin of where that trigger was
created. Yeah. I know you ain't got a lot of time, That's a whole nother thing right there.
Another dollar, right?
Take your time, man. Take your time. Peace to you and your family, Aseer, and people tell you that they appreciate the things you do, but like I said, man, I'm on a gig all the time, 10, 12 hours a day, and you loaded. You like to load it, man, so it'll come around again for y'all.
Oh, damn.
I'm talking about for me.
That's what I'm saying, guys. It's the same for us. We feel the same way for the people. So if we can do this research and all of that, which allows you to still get it and then still have the time to do your own research on it as well as work like this, we're here to lighten each other's load. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's our whole thing along. So thank you again.
Remember what I told you last time, man. You be lowballing yourself, You really don't, I don't think you know. You be lowballing yourself.
Well,
the white folks get paid though.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know what I'm saying?
We can go get some $180 J's. That's not all our fault. Like I said, these folks is mind controlled and programmed. So, but if they really want it, man, you worth it. That's all I wanted to say. And I want to say peace.
I appreciate that, man. Peace to you. Lowballing for those people that I don't necessarily put the highest, let's say, premium to what I do, financially, like some of these other people. I keep things for perspective to change in a manner without trying to hit the pen like some other people. But I appreciate your brother for acknowledging that and all of you for the same. anybody wants to get the flash, please holler back at us at houseofhell@hotmail.com. We'll send an email out tomorrow to those people who've already been in class. So, for the contact us, guys, look out for that. It's what I like about what they're building is the fact that it's, you know what I'm saying, multi-generational, multicultural, whatever you want to call it, but primarily everybody knows that we're specifically here to help empower original people, those people who consider themselves that, and who are actually living and striving to match their words hard, but people are under different influences, which are out there for a reason, because it's good in all of the works of the creator. Yet the bad is usually that which has been manipulated on the physical realm to attain some sort of spiritual hold to cement a physical outcome. So the more we propel, propagate ourselves towards a path in which we are moving forward, we're going to get what we're supposed to get. So, with all that's going on, you know, in the time of reality TV. Oh, for instance, if anybody wants to know who created reality TV, there's a chick named Leslie Gardner. She's the German paperclip implant. Back in the day, she was basically the architect of that CIA, ABD affiliation. It's a rent. So again, with this clear, me and my family, we don't feel that we are against any individual or group or association or ministry or whatever. We are totally against the bullshit. That's really it. So whatever that manifests as is what we are against. You know what I'm saying? And the shucking and jiving aspect of to me, it's more of the lack of prudence as to where the people may be, and to be real with what it is that can be accomplished versus what it is we want to accomplish. And those things have not been clearly defined, I think, in our community, based upon the fallout from the civil rights era, which, again, we're going to get into in the class. It's really going to be a real symposium to get into the history of really the conscious community, you know what I mean, where it developed from, and how it is we all kind of came into it. You know, what was the precursor? Who were the individuals that laid the groundwork for what it was to be? And why is it when we focus on so-called black history or Afro-Asiatic history, we're always dealing with people people who are contemporary but are being isolated based upon research. So when you research Marcus Garvey, his nemesis, let's say, was W.B. Du Bois and the Boule, but the Boule technically wasn't really what the Boule was, but the Boule came from the era of Prince Hall. You know what I'm saying? But not all of them was on the same. A lot of them were more revolutionary than the ones that's rocking it now. So what we're talking about is the degradation of our forward momentum based upon cultural and tribal differences, which led to the destabilization of the republic and the eventual usurpation of the republic into the federalized system, in which, in order for these people to preserve an aspect of their power for themselves, they had to create a society that could perpetuate itself. But the same thing that happened here in America was happening in Britain, UK, and all of that. Because remember, there was a fire around 66 that burned everything down. That Albion or Britain that existed up until that great fire was us. After that, we have the amalgamation and the eventual Anglo usurpation of these bloodlines, and then these bloodlines becoming the basis of the captains of industry that helped infuse the Industrial Revolution, which then created a diaspora of original people in which industry was more important. So then all of the stories and cartoons and stuff we watched back in the days was about how the farm was going to be taken by the banks unless they did a show or some shit and had to get the money at the last minute. Or there was a situation where the governor was trying to come into the rainforest and people had all of these things were laid in the groundwork of our political worldview that was shaping at a time when the framework or blueprint of the time sphere that we are living in now was being laid out. So what we are physically living through right now was written on a group of people based upon their Anglo-establishment ties to the specific agenda of genocidal austerity. So Monday we'll get more into that. And like I said, anybody wants to holler at us about the class, people who have been in the class about the flyer, email us at houseofl@hotmail.com. Also, you can check out www.aseer.com as well as www.sagastar.com. So on behalf of Heru Radio, Selena, Aseer, more Saga, the rest of the family, on the start. Stay tuned.